baby-babyku, selamat pagi, selamat siang, selamat sore, dan selamat malam. Jumpa lagi dengan saya Mbok Baby di channel YouTube kesayangan kita semua, Baby Talk, bebas bicara talk. Kali ini episode spesial Baby Talk karena kita akan menyaksikan liputan Baby Talk Goes to World Press Freedom Conference 2020. WPFC 2020 ini adalah konferensi mengenai kebebasan pers atau media yang diselenggarakan oleh UNESCO dan negara Belanda. Nah, WPFC kali ini mengambil tema Journalism Without Fear or Favor. Susah bahasa Inggris ya. Dan WPFC kali ini diadakan pada tanggal 9 sampai 10 Desember 2020 di The Hague, Belanda. Tapi WPFC 2020 kali ini juga dilaksanakan secara virtual loh. Keren nggak? Pasti keren. Dan pembicaranya itu nggak kalah keren-keren. Ada siapa ini? Ada Amal Clooney, ada Christian Amanpour dari CNN, dan banyak sekali tokoh-tokoh media internasional yang lainnya. Dan serunya lagi, Baby Talk juga ikut berpartisipasi dalam acara ini. Dan tentu saja yang mewakili adalah Mbak Dena Rahman, juragan saya. Pasti pada penasaran kan gimana keseruan Mbak Dena di sana? Kalau gitu nggak usah lama-lama, langsung kita simak saja gimana liputan Mbak Dena Rahman ketika berada di acara WPFC 2020. Yuk mari!
First of all, I would like to thank you, Minister Block, for this opportunity. I appreciate it much. My name is Dena Rahman. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. From our understanding here, the Netherlands is one of the countries that is quite progressive and open in terms of freedom of press. And as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, how do you see the global solidarity in responding to freedom of press in other countries whose rights are still not fulfilled yet?
It is indeed a challenge for me as Minister of Foreign Affairs and all my colleagues that think the same way that I do about the importance of free press, to discuss this subject with colleagues in countries where press is not free. Because if we are seen as lecturing Western European countries, we won't achieve anything. Therefore, we actually choose a number of venues. One of them is this conference. There are more than 50 of my colleagues participating from all over the world, which makes me very happy because it shows that there is this willingness and interest to discuss free and open press all around the world. Furthermore, it is an issue I raise during my talks with colleagues, both within Europe, if there is a reason for it, and outside. And an issue I often combine is that a lot of countries are very interested in working with Dutch universities or Dutch companies, and they ask me, can you stimulate them to come to my country, invest there, cooperate with our universities? And then I can always say that I'm happy to do so, but that the public in the Netherlands will scrutinize Dutch companies, Dutch universities on their activities abroad. And if they have to explain that they are active in countries where human rights are not respected, where journalists are under pressure, where there is no free press, they will be reluctant to invest or cooperate in those countries. And that makes my life easier because I can show an advantage in setting steps in the direction that I think will benefit us all anyway, but make a clear connection with things my colleagues in a number of countries will ask from my side in investments or cooperation with the Netherlands.
So then, would you say that intergovernmental lobbying is still necessary to do so?
Oh, very much. Very much. It is a combination of pressure. If today we underwrite with 50 countries a declaration in favor of free press, it's also a way of saying to the countries that don't underwrite, hey, why don't you underwrite? And continuing to ask them, please join us. But I'm convinced you should combine it with things we have to offer, like closer cooperation that countries are, of course, also seeking.
Sudah on ya. Maaf. Gimana? Seru kan? Seru banget pasti. Tadi kita sudah lihat wawancara Mbak Dena dengan Bapak Stef Blok, Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs Kingdom of the Netherlands. Untung bener ya. Pelepotan. Yuk, kita saksikan saja reportase Mbak Dena selanjutnya di World Press Freedom Conference 2020. Yuk, mari!
In a world society that is diverse, the media content needs to be representing the truth and authenticity. That seems to be the key message that was discussed during the session of Diversity and Inclusiveness in and Through Media at the World Press Freedom Conference 2020. Soledad O'Brien, an American journalist and CEO of Soledad O'Brien Productions, who moderated the discussion, said that diversity and inclusion in the media mean to tell story accurately.
For me, diversity and inclusion is about making sure that there are lots of people who are at the table, who are including their voices, so that you do what I think journalists are supposed to be doing. We're supposed to get it right. We're supposed to be focused on facts and data and getting stories told accurately. I don't think you can have a story told accurately if you don't actually focus on all the different voices and all the different points of view that might be involved.
A poll was raised during the discussion, with the results showing that 79% disagree with the statement that media should not intermeddle with societal movements and change. The obvious question is how to deliver story accurately that can really make that change. Clarice Gargard, a journalist, columnist, and Dutch representative to the UN Women, stated that the media plays a pivotal role to portray society in interdimensional ways.
I think media have a very pivotal role because your job is not only to portray society, it's also to portray it in a fair way. And when you portray it in a one-dimensionalized way, that is not fair to anybody, not to the person you're trying to portray or the groups or the issue, and not to the public itself.
Luisa Ortiz, a gender equality champion and executive director and co-founder of VitaActive.org, believes that media has civic duty to provide access to all information.
I believe that us as journalists have a civic duty to provide access to information for people. And whenever there is social unrest or when there are people on the streets, when there is political debate, when there are things that are tense in our societies, our role is to be able to shed light so that people can make up their minds with the most information that they can.
Blake Harrop, managing director of Wieden and Kennedy, explained that the most important thing is to find the truth, the human truth.
You know, I think what we have to recognize is the power and privilege that our platform gives us to influence change. And so in order to do that, you know, you have to find something that is true. So that was what we focused on. That's true. It doesn't focus on race. It doesn't focus on ideology. It's a human truth. It's a sports truth. It allows you to go in and have a message that's powerful and inspirational. And I feel like that is the space where we can step into that space.
While all the panelists agreed that the media needed to be the agent of change in showing diversity and inclusiveness, as it also showed in the poll, the hard question remained a challenge. Can we ever really have an authentic conversation that is representing all truth? This is Dena Rahman reporting on the World Press Freedom Conference 2020. Free market has made media ownership open to private sector. It might be a good thing, but we all begin to experience the negative impact nowadays. an even more polarized and divided public. And that same public left wondering whom to trust. During the session of Why Public Media Matters at the World Press Freedom Conference 2020, Sally Ann, CEO of Public Media Alliance, moderated a panel discussing the state of public media, its roles, and its challenges.
But public trust is a fragile thing. It takes years to make, but just seconds to break. Today, there are growing challenges and threats to public media in just about every corner of the world. The biggest threat is to its independence.
Public trust, as mentioned by Sally Ann, takes years to make and seconds to break. Public media becomes a necessary tool of public service, providing independent and impartial news. Now let's have a look at what the panelists, which comprise of reputable public broadcasters from across the world, had to say about public media.
And actually in Sweden we have a very clear definition. Public service media needs to be independent from all kinds of power, political, financial, religious, and whatever else you can come up with. The money should come directly from the people. The third thing that is important for being a public service company is that you should have a remit. And finally, when producing our content, we should always try to be impartial.
The point here is that free market or private media looks out for consumer eyeballs. Public service media fundamental goal is to build the capacity of citizens. For the current challenge now is how do we put in place a sustainable mechanism for funding public service broadcasting or public service media in Ghana and in other African countries for that matter.
Is not only appreciation on the part of the Australian public. We've seen record audiences, we've seen incredible engagement around our content, but absolutely that essence of this is an organisation and this is a service that is for us as members of the public. I suppose that is the way we see ourselves, as providing a genuine service to the public.
In this part of the world, we have a little bit different position. I very quickly, on the front of the line of the defending public television, its independence and public importance. At the same time, I'm being exposed to lawsuits by my employee.
The Trusted News Initiative was established to counter the harmful impact of disinformation at moments of maximum jeopardy. It brings together leading global figures from the publishing industry and from the biggest tech platforms, united in their commitment to counter the fast-growing threat of disinformation and its real-world harms.
With growing challenges and pressures received by public media, mostly political and financial, it is not an understatement to say that public media is struggling. Yet, it is still a strong instrument to serve democracy. This is Dena Rahman reporting on the World Press Freedom Conference 2020.
I've defended journalists all over the world who've been unfairly imprisoned just for doing their work. And I think there are two main ways in which governments can make a difference. One is they can make sure that their laws are in order. In so many countries around the world, there are still too many laws that allow journalists to be sent to prison for speech, for what they write. To give an extreme example, a blasphemy, insulting religion, is still a crime in 40 countries, and you can get the death penalty for it in 6 countries. And the second thing that I think governments can do is those governments that actually defend freedom of the press, like the Netherlands, can take steps to protect vulnerable journalists and to punish those who abuse them and who abuse the free press.
Lies, laced with anger and hate, spread faster and further than facts.
If we commit obsessively to what we're doing, we stand a chance to win.
Us here, and I hope you, our audience, are demanding justice for Jamal. We are demanding justice for Daphne. We are demanding justice for Ghislaine and Claude. We are demanding justice for Chris. Join us in demanding justice. Join us in standing up for justice, join us in acting for justice. It is our justice too.
I think hopefully we've learned some lessons. You know, that famous expression, drop the mic, it's time. You know, just because somebody claims to be president of the United States or is president of the United States, you don't just give a platform to somebody who is willing to use it and abuse it. There have to be general standards of truth, of evidence, as if you were in a court. You don't just come to court and lie under oath. The same way you don't come onto our platforms, hog our platforms, and spend the whole time lying and spreading disinformation and misinformation. I mean, I could go all the way back to the Bosnian conflict, which was my first major conflict. Yeah, you're right, that I did the Gulf War, and that was the big story that put CNN on the international map. And I have to keep the hope that what we do does make an impact, maybe not immediately, but cumulatively. The difference between truth and lies is the difference between life and death.
Nah, demikian reportase Mbok Baby untuk acara World Press Freedom Conference 2020. Setelah ini akan ada pesan dari Mr. Lambert Greens selaku Duta Besar Belanda untuk Indonesia. Sampai jumpa di episode selanjutnya, babyku. Dadah. Dadah.
Hello, I'm Lambert Greens. I'm the ambassador of the Netherlands to Indonesia. And I'm very happy to be here at Baby Talk, Bebas Bicara. Now, last week in the Netherlands, we organized the World Press Freedom Conference. And Dena Rahman, she was there as well, digitally. She participated in the youth newsroom, and that was fabulous. Keren banget, yeah? Now, why was it so important that she was there? Because she could speak about her life and her love, and she could show that everyone in this world has a right to be the person he or she wants to be. The Netherlands here in Indonesia, together with the government, with civil society, with journalists and with activists such as Dena, wants to continue to support press freedom in Indonesia and worldwide. Thank you very much.